It's been, I think, so far. I think there's been upsets. There have been resurgencies in clubs that started poorly. Nations that have started poorly. Just some fantastic games and some like outrageous performances from clubs you wouldn't expect. Nations. I keep saying clubs. But just initial thoughts, guys. How do we feel about what's happened so far?
Well, I think to make it a more structured conversation, we may as well ping down through each of the groups. Now, as of recording, groups A, B, and C, and D are all set.
Yep.
We know who's finished first and second. It remains to be seen how many of the third-place teams in those groups will qualify. But in Group A, I think not many people would have picked Equatorial Guinea to top that group. I know I was kind of talking shit about Nigeria in the last podcast, but boy, did they turn around. They thumped Ivory Coast, who also got thumped by Equatorial Guinea, and it seems like the hosts have crashed out of the tournament. What did you guys think of Ivory Coast's collapse out? I, for one, was pretty shocked. I didn't foresee that coming.
Yeah, that was embarrassing. They've got a solid team. You got a couple, like you have like Nicolas Pepe. If you got to rely on him, like we know in the big moments in Arsenal, and he couldn't really cut it there. So but they do have a really good team. They have like probably one of the better midfields in the entire tournament, and they've definitely got to be disappointed to lose at home, and to lose 4-0 is pretty embarrassing in the last game. So, like you said, we probably shouldn't have been too surprised. Probably had a little bit too much hype around them, given they were at home. But yeah, you have to think they do better.
Yeah, they seem to crumble, and I wanted to bring up the 4-0. Now, our top scorer in the AFCON is a name that not many people will be familiar with. I certainly wasn't at the top or at the start of the tournament. Emilio Ensu, did you guys see his little story where he's from? He plays in the 3rd division in Spain. He's a fullback. He's actually a right back for his club, but he applies his trade as the number 9 for Equatorial Guinea. He's a makeshift striker. He scored a hat trick, and he's the top goal scorer, 5 goals in 3 games. We'll see. Who knows? Who knows how far they can go? But they're in incredible form. There's such a great team spirit. I managed to catch most of the game against the Ivory Coast. They run until the final minute. They believe in themselves. They were turning Ivory Coast over. They couldn't breathe. It was unbelievable.
That is actually the craziest thing.
I saw that today. I couldn't believe what I was reading.
That's unreal, and it's a shame. It's a shame he's only figuring out his goal prowess at 34. If had he done this any younger, he could be a leading striker somewhere in Europe.
Oh, well, if he was 17, Madrid would be calling.
Oh, absolutely. That is unreal. I love that kind of stuff. We've seen that with a couple of world-class players that start their trade in the academy at a different position and end up in net when they start as a striker. But yeah, Ivory Coast. I just think I don't know if I always thought that they fielded their best team. I'm not always super familiar with some of these other names, but I feel like I'm familiar with names on their bench that are just not getting on. I don't know if it was a tactical thing, but I think they severely underperformed. But I also think obviously Equatorial Guinea did really well to get out of that group and top that group, especially with heavy hitters in Nigeria. Another club that I think performed really well, and then a club that also I think underperformed a lot, just like Ivory Coast, would be Ghana and Cape Verde. Cape Verde had a fantastic run of games where they topped their group, and then Ghana just couldn't do anything, and Egypt finishing second in that group on 3 straight draws. I think they're gonna get actually smacked out. They don't have an opponent as of right now in the knockout phases, but I think they're gonna get knocked right out, especially without Salah there. And even when Salah couldn't get it a result.
And now his name just slipped my mind, but former Benfica manager is their current manager. He definitely would have made a Rui Vitória. That's what it was. Yeah. I knew it was Rui something. Jesus. Definitely made Fernando Santos proud with 3 straight draws to get through.
This is actually an interesting group. There's actually a little bit of breaking news. I don't know if you guys have had Twitter open, but Chris Hutton, the Ghanaian manager, has been sacked. I don't think anybody was shocked to see that, especially after the first result when they lost and the fans were wrongfully attacking him. You never want to see anything like that. But yeah, Ghana are as good as dead in this tournament. I think there's a way that they can qualify. They need help from other teams. It's not in their hands. But Mohamed Kudus' interview summed it up pretty well. He was absolutely speechless. I mean, they were leading the game against Mozambique 2-0. They had 2 penalties. It seemed like it was smooth sailing and they were going to qualify, and then they gave up 2 really late goals. 90th minute, a penalty, and a header from Ray Nildo, who's been a decent servant in the European game. Obviously, was applying his trade at Atletico Madrid for some time. But yeah, this was a wacky group too. I don't think anybody would have thought Cape Verde was going to go unbeaten, but it's something that makes the AFCON special. It's cool to see.
We saw a classic AFCON goal with that Bebe free kick, too, for Cape Verde.
Yeah.
That was sick.
Yeah, that lost me my Rivals game. So with that, we can move on to the next group. Group C finished about pretty much standard. I think this is exactly how people would have thought it would have shook out. Senegal topped the group. They've been absolutely unbelievable. I managed to watch the whole Senegal-Cameroon game. They were just on a complete other level from Cameroon. Some of the passing moves that they put together, forgive me, but a lot of people would think that wasn't a very African way of playing. I think a lot of people stereotype the African game to be more physical, more back and forth, pinball, half the balls go out of bounds, and a lot of mistakes. But Senegal play a really organized game. They move the ball around well. They have some players that have played for some really important teams. Sadio Mane, obviously a Champions League winner. He's somebody that I think should have won a Ballon d'Or, and he's playing up to the standard. He's given captain contributions. Senegal, the real deal. I think they should be the favorite to win the tournament.
Yeah, they have some top quality talents in their team plying their trade across Europe, and then obviously some of them in the Saudi Pro League, where we know competition is spicing up there. Their right back, who often plays in the midfield too, but Crepin Diatta had a fantastic game with an assist. Just overall, I mean, like, they're just the team I think that have like the most recognizable household names in their starting 11 that are still playing at some of their top performances. So yeah, they're definitely favorites to win the tournament. But I think Guinea, who managed to squeak through to qualification in third place, I still think if they can recuperate, improve performances a bit, they could still make a deep run despite finishing only third in their group. I think they're a little bit of a dark horse. I know we had touched about them a little bit before.
Yeah, welcoming signs. They got Garausi back. I think it's his first game in a while, right? I think he was coming off injury.
For a few weeks.
Yeah, and they rested the majority of their squad, the majority of the starters that from match day 1 and match day 2. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. It's getting exciting. There's 3 teams in this tournament. 3 teams in this group that are really strong, and it looks like they're all going to advance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cameroon's playing Nigeria in the next round.
That should be a good game.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So I haven't gotten to see too much AFCON games, but the most I've seen is definitely Senegal over a few games, and they look
good.
really good.
Yeah,
they look fantastic.
Yeah,
I think they should easily be the favorites to win the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Real quick, I just wanted to touch on the Onana situation with Cameroon. I mean,
Oh yeah, good point.
Yep.
They did all this special bullshit for him to get special clearance for him to go out there, and they said he wasn't gonna miss the first game. He missed the first game. They flew him out there for the second game. He played the second game, and now they benched him for the third game. What the fuck is going on there? And then another thing too that really bothered me. Did you guys see that clip of him running up the field to give Nkudu advice on a free kick?
Yeah.
What in God's name did he have possibly had to say that was so important that he needed to run 80 yards up the field on an attacking free kick to tell Nkudu? I like that the decision making of this guy is just fucking unbelievable. I don't know how he got to this point in his career doing some of the things he does, man. It just makes me ask so many questions every time I watch the guy play.
Yeah, I think a couple weeks ago when you said that he's emotional and it just has a weird attitude, I think you nailed it on the head. I think his career is going to hinder on the fact that he's just when it comes
Bro,
to
what are
decisions,
you
he just
doing?
doesn't make good ones. I don't know.
What are you doing? Like every time I watch him play, I ask so many questions, and I hate to do it because, like I said before, like when he was at Inter last season, he was brilliant. Like he was really a great goalkeeper. I didn't really see him do this kind of shit, but like now, like I said, he's like the emotional stuff. He's questioning things. He's thinking about stuff more. I think he's just lost his head probably at this point.
Yeah, and he had an interesting career too because he had that he started off with Ajax when they had that ridiculous season with that quarterfinals was it quarterfinals or semifinals of the Champions League
Semis.
semis, yeah.
Tottenham knocked
And
him out.
then was it like a doping thing that he had where he was like
Doping, yeah.
suspended? Yeah,
Right.
and then that happened, and then he had a fallout with Cameroon, and then he basically went MIA for a while because I think he was playing like for an even worse team. Then he gets with Inter, has a fantastic season, and then reconciles with Cameroon, gets a big move to Manchester United. You think everything's on the up and up, and then he just, I don't know what happened.
He's soiling it.
Completely spiraled. So yeah, that's he's an interesting situation for sure.
Yeah, I really just don't know what's going on. A lot of questions.
Yeah, a lot of questions for sure.
Yeah, and then we can just move to the last group
Yep.
that's already decided. Angola topping the group, pretty cool. And Algeria have crashed out,
Yeah.
pretty unexpectedly. I think a lot of people would have thought Algeria would have went
I
unbeaten in this group, and they didn't win a game.
Yeah, because this group on paper just didn't look all that strong. Algeria looked like they, like you said, could have smoked it through. And Algeria usually one of the best teams in Africa these past couple tournaments. If I'm not wrong, Morocco won the last one, but I think they held the title two tournaments ago. But they just looked so.
Senegal won the last tournament.
Senegal won the last one. Oh,
Senegal, Egypt, no.
Oh yeah, in the final. That's right. There was the Mane,
Yeah, I think Algeria was in the final the one before.
But but Algeria always in contention for it, and I'm just so surprised that they just played so poorly in this one.
See, I know I follow a lot more of like Portuguese soccer guys, so
Right.
I definitely saw a lot of. I thought it would be some bias towards the Portuguese speaking nations and Angola and stuff, but I saw a lot of hype about Angola being a really good team, and I wasn't really too sure about it, but they seem to be a real deal. Like they're a pretty solid group. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how far they can actually take it, but yeah, to top that group is pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's interesting to review a couple of the nations we've already talked about, and you said Portuguese-speaking nations. A lot of our Portuguese clubs have academies in Africa, in the nations that obviously in history were colonized at one point, but and it shows a bit that like they get the chance because to play the beautiful game through these academies because Cape Verde topping their group, Mozambique taking the point away from Ghana, that would have saw them go through. And obviously Angola, like we just mentioned, topping their group. I mean, it's cool to see how those academies staying in these countries, in these underdeveloped countries, can really help these players grow in the sport. You know what I mean, and grow futures for themselves and their families.
Yeah, I mean, and not for nothing, none of these guys are really playing at big teams, or even most of them aren't even playing first division football.
Right.
So like it's even more impressive when you look at it that way. I think there's a few guys in the Portuguese league, but yeah, be interesting to see how they go. Because yeah, Burkina Faso is not an awful side either. So
yeah,
and they beat them 2-0 in the final game, I believe.
Yeah, and this is actually a really important group because if you look at the knockouts right now, one side of the bracket has Cape Verde, Mauritania, and Angola. So we could see a little bit of a dark horse run from Cape Verde and Angola. It remains to be seen who Angola is going to face. I believe it's going to be a third-place team that qualifies. So as of right now, it could be Ivory Coast, it could be Guinea, it could be South Africa,
we're
maybe
also likely going to get a Morocco
Tunisia
on that side too, on top of Nigeria, and who should make a run, but they're
they're on another side.
Are they?
No, one F. That's Morocco.
One F would be Morocco.
That's going to be on that side. But I mean,
They're
Nigeria,
on
Cameroon.
Senegal's side. I think.
Unless
I'm looking
at it wrong.
I'm looking on Flop Mob.
Yeah, that's how I'm seeing.
Yeah,
One F
I
is
think
on the
you
same
got
side
on
as
the
Cape Verde and Angola.
Yeah,
Put
But
it down, really. Okay.
yeah, I mean that's just on our screen. It could not be accurate, but either way, and I mean Nigeria and Cameroon, as of right now, on that side of the bracket, the two biggest teams, and they got to face off each other in the first round. So I totally
Yeah.
agree with what Andrew's saying. That's going to be an interesting group. And then the last two groups that are going to be finishing off right before this gets posted, Mali, Ange's dark horse, still doing well, topping their groups. Good shout
Come on.
by Ange. He knows what he's talking about. Obviously South Africa and Namibia, are still trying to see if their way through. South Africa, I hope they do it because that was one of my favorite World Cups. I think the ones I've seen, I think South Africa was one of my favorite World Cups to watch. So much good energy. And I think Morocco are a fantastic team. So if they continue to top their group, I think they're going to be real contenders for the tournament themselves. I think they're just such a talented team. And of course, Portugal got knocked out of the World Cup by them, so it hurts a little bit. But if there are no other comments, I believe just to wrap things up, we could talk about 5 of the best performing players this weekend.
I just wanted to speak about Morocco because
Please,
dude, like that side of the table, that side of the bracket's going to be insane.
It is going to be absolutely unreal.
Who do you guys pick now that we have seen some of the bigger teams fall out? Is there a favorite that you guys see shaping up? If it's not Senegal,
I think it's got to be Senegal for me.
yeah, I think so too. Because
Yeah,
regardless of who they
mostly
play in the next round, you'd take them to win. And if Egypt wins and they can play a Salah-less Egypt, I mean, we'll see. It looks pretty set for them to make a semifinal run. But we'll see.
Yeah, as far as pass to the final, I think Senegal has the easiest, but I think I'll be a little different. I just still think the Morocco team is a really complete team. I know we talked about Senegal. Senegal look much more of a complete team than I think they have in the past, even though they went to the final 2 years ago and obviously won it. But I still think Morocco it just plays really well as a unit. And they have some really young talent in that team that I personally really like watch play. So that is my pick. I don't know if G differs from all three.
I'm sticking with you, actually, Nate. I said it from the beginning. I think Morocco, despite how well Senegal has played, Morocco strikes me as the team that looks most like a club, most together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to stick with Morocco. I'd like to see them go all the way.
I like that. It'll be interesting when this tournament wraps up. We got 2-2 right now. It'll be interesting to see which half of our
it'll end up being Cape Verde.
I know that. I mean,
we'll all be wrong.
I love that.
What's up, guys? If you love content like that, if you just love football, if you just love soccer, and you want to see more of our conversations, come check out the Son of a Pitch podcast channel on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all across different platforms. We will have weekly roundups of the weekend. We have all kinds of videos, discussions, breakdown, tactical analysis, all the good stuff. Come check us out and keep on being Son of a Pitch.